Welcome back to PWE Music. Once again, this is Dr. Patrick Engler, and this is Down the Rabbit Hole. And in this episode, we're going to take a little bit of a half episode where we go through and define everything that you're seeing on the screen. We're not really going to build forward, we're going to take a little bit of a sideways step just so that we're comfortable going through everything that you see here in live. And more importantly, if you click on something, then you can change it back or fix it if something bad happens. But we're going to start today in the center, this big window here, and this is your session view. And this can be the most confusing thing about live because not only do we have session view, we have arrangement view. So what's going on here? What we have are the two sides of Ableton Live. All right, so we're actually going to start in arrangement view, and this is your kind of your classic DAW, digital audio workstation view, where tracks are, well, in this case, on the right rather than the left. Time moves horizontally, and you can arrange your clips in the form of a song. So if we flip back to session view, you see our main focus is the tracks. And we can add clips vertically, but this is more of kind of like multiple CD players or turntables or iPods, whatever generation you want to use. You can think of each track as one of those, and you can play one clip on each and mix and match things that are happening between them all at once and kind of experiment. So to boil it down, arrangement view is where you can arrange things in a specific song. Session view is where we can experiment, put things together, see how they fit, and we're not locking that in. Of course, you can lock that in and bounce that into your arrangement, but at least the way I do things, and a lot of people do things in Ableton Live, we use session view to experiment and try new things and see how they fit before you lock it in on arrangement view. So, moving on, we will go down to the bottom where it says drop an instrument or sample here. And this is your track info, because not only, we're actually going to delete these MIDI tracks, make it easy. Not only does it have all of your devices for that track, like in our previous video where we put a chorus on our audio track, it'll also show you information for specific clips as you select them. So let's actually show some of this stuff. And we'll just record a clip here. Sorry for the metronome. And you can see we have a wave forming from me talking, and that's probably good. So we'll just stop it there. And now you can see the information for this clip. And it has all of your various information that you would want. And if we switch back to our device view and everything, you see we have our device still there. We have our information. So how do we switch between these two? Switching between arrangement and session view and clip and device information is very similar. So for the big one, arrangement to session and vice versa, just hit tab. And we'll just switch that back So we should see the 1. So just hitting tab, we're switching back and forth. Or you can go to the top right here, and these 2 buttons, you can switch back and forth. Now to switch between clip and device view, it's Shift tab. And it's important to note, so we're back in session view. I'm going to select this clip, and we see the information for it over here. Now we'll drag that over to our arrangement. We see the information for it over here. And these will change between session and arrangement. And just to give you an example, we'll just make this shorter. We'll turn it into 2 bars. So in arrangement, our clip is 2 bars. In session, it skips back to 4. 2 in arrangement, 4 in session. However, our device will stay the same. And we'll show that with the feedback. We'll turn it up to 50%. 50% in session, still 50% in arrangement. Now a couple more things about our track information. When you have your clip up, to edit that wave, you make it a little easier by resizing that. You can't do that with your devices, but you can do that with your clips. Or if you want to put that away, this little triangle in the bottom right will fold that away. We'll leave that open for now. As we keep going around, this square in the bottom left, it's our info view. As we said before, you can mouse over and get the information, relevant information on anything that you are unsure about. If you feel confident, you can also fold that away to get yourself more room with the triangle in the bottom left. Now up here to the browser, as we talked about, this will be your library for everything. I can read it off, but your audio effects, your MIDI instruments, anything else that you want to use, you'll find it here. And you can click through it on the left if you know what you're looking for, if you want to, or you can search at the top. So we'll say we want a phaser, and it'll give us that information. Down at the bottom of it, these headphones, this is your preview. And it won't give you a preview for your audio effects, but once you get into MIDI instruments, it will give you a little bit of a preview, or you can preview clips that you want to import. And yet again, we can fold this away. If you import everything you want, hide that away, and it gives you more room. So now let's go back to session view and go over some of these buttons that we have to deal with here. And we're going to start in the bottom right. We have these small bubbles. And so, starting from the top, I/O deals with your ins and outs. And that will be this section, starting from audio from down to audio to. And right now it's highlighted yellow, so we can see it, click on it, and it goes away if you need more room. Moving down, S and R are related. Those are your sends and returns. And your sends are these knobs, and one down from your ins and outs. Your returns are these 2 tracks, A reverb and B delay. And you can add more sends and returns if you want, but they'll always be related with the letter. So A sends audio to A, B sends it to B. If we delete B, the B knob goes away. Moving down yet again, we have M, also highlighted, and that is for your mixer section. We have the fader, your peak, your pan, track activator, solo, and arm recording. And if we unhighlight these, they disappear. So with sends and returns, you can also just hide your return track or just the sends, depending on what you want to do. Now the two at the bottom that are not highlighted are the D, which is track delay. And that's important when you start adding external equipment that may not be synced up exactly with what's happening in the computer. So don't worry about that for right now. Oh, well, and then the X is for your crossfade. And if you want, you can assign different tracks to different sides and use the crossfader on the master to crossfade between them. So now let's dig into your mixer controls. So as I said before, up here we have our send knobs. Those send audio to your return tracks if you turn them up. We're not going to monitor that right now, but you can play with that on your own. Now, the highlighted square with the number, that is if your track is active or not. Highlighted, as the theme has been, is that the track is active. Turn that off, the track is not active. Moving down, the S stands for your solo button. And if you're watching your info view, it's also for Q if you have that set up. When you're using a computer, you don't have enough output channels to set up a Q, so we're limited to solo for now. And highlighting that means that's the only track that you will hear if you play back. And you can set that up with solo, or you can deactivate the tracks you don't want to hear. And the bottom button, as we talked about before, is your arm recording button, and that enables the track to record, or, as we've been using, monitoring. I'll go back up a little bit. This knob in the mixer section is your pan, which will move it left or right in the stereo field. And we have the peak level, which is important when you're trying to get your microphone set, especially while you're playing, since this will show you the peak signal, as you can read, since playback last began. And when you're playing and you're maybe not looking at your computer, you can use that to see if your microphone's a little too hot, or if you need to turn it up a little bit, if you have a little bit of room. And you can reset that by clicking on it, which is not working right now since it's monitoring my clicks. So we'll turn that off. And there you go. You can reset it. The last thing for the mixer is your fader, which you can control with this triangle on the right. And the last thing we will cover for this video is our control bar at the top. And a lot of that, you go away. And a lot of that we're not going to worry about for right now. But we'll talk about what it all is. On the left is mainly your tempo and metronome. So you can set the tempo for your song and activate a metronome or not. If you want to change the time signature, you can do that. And some quantization, but we're not really worried about that right now. Towards the center, you have your playback controls. Obviously play, stop, and record. These buttons to the right of those all deal with automation or overdubbing. And since we're not really talking about that right now, we're not going to use these. This to the left is the position in the arrangement and your follow button. We're also not using arrangement view right now, so don't worry so much about that. A little further right over, we have loop controls. So this is where the loop will start. This will activate it or not, and that is your loop length on the right. Again, not using arrangement view, so don't worry about that right now. All the way on the right, we just have some kind of meta controls of your computer hardware. Probably the most important right now is your load meter. It's unlikely that you will put a heavy load with what we're doing right now, but just keep an eye on it if you start having a ton of tracks or a ton of things playing back. Other than that, we will cover some of those buttons that we'll need in the future. And, forgot two things. One is folded away, and that's all the way on the left. We have these two wavy lines, which may open up if you hit them. And that opens up your groove pool. And grooves are something that you're going to use if you start getting into MIDI more and MIDI clips. They can give it a certain groove rather than specific quantization to like beats, so it's very metronomic. Grooves can help give it a more human feel. That's folded away for the most part, but if you accidentally hit it, that's what it is. And then over on your master, we have this square, this little salmon colored or orange, depending on your perspective, button to play and two lines. And what that is the back to arrangement button. And if it is highlighted, then something in your arrangement, remember, arrangement's over here, has changed. If we click it, you go back to what is in your arrangement. So that's probably not going to be too much concern for right now. We'll get into that if we start using, when we start using arrangement. So I believe that covers pretty much everything that you may hit or get entangled with while you're exploring. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. You can go back and check out some of the other videos if you have any problems, but in the next video we'll be moving on and building some more complex effects chains to listen to. So until then, we'll see you there.